Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into a topic that affects millions of people around the world, yet it is often suffered through in complete, agonizing silence. If you have ever walked into a crowded room and felt like 1,000 judging eyes were burning holes into your back, if you have ever rehearsed a simple coffee order 10 times in your head before speaking to the cashier, or if you constantly turn down party invitations because the mere thought of making small talk makes your heart race and your palms sweat, then this video is your safe haven. We are doing a massive, deep dive story breakdown of the psychological mechanics of social anxiety, drawing from the definitive clinical research, cognitive behavioral frameworks, and groundbreaking manuals that explain why we fear other people. This is not a dry academic lecture. We are going to unmask the invisible monster of social anxiety, look at exactly what it does to our brains, and walk through a step-by-step roadmap to help you break out of your mental prison and reclaim your social freedom. Get comfortable, grab your notebook, take a deep breath, and let us discover how to quiet the inner critic once and for all. Part 1. The heavy weight of the invisible spotlight. Let us start our story by looking at a day in the life of someone living under the heavy shadow of social anxiety. Let us call him Michael. Michael is incredibly smart, creative, and kind. He has a brilliant sense of humor when he is around his immediate family, and he dreams of climbing the ladder at his corporate job. But to the outside world, Michael seems invisible, aloof, or even cold. One morning, Michael walks into his office break room to grab a cup of coffee. Two of his coworkers are standing by the microwave, laughing and talking about their weekend plans. The moment Michael steps through the doorway, his body instantly goes into a state of high alert. His heart begins to hammer against his ribs. His throat tightens, making it feel difficult to swallow. His mind goes completely blank, erasing any casual greeting he could have shared. He grabs his coffee as fast as he can, mumbles a quick hello without making eye contact, and rushes back to his cubicle, feeling a wave of intense shame washing over him. For the rest of the day, Michael's brain plays that 5-second interaction on a non-stop loop. He analyzes the tone of his own voice, convinced he sounded incredibly weird. He wonders if his coworkers noticed his hands shaking. He concludes that they must think he is a total loser who doesn't fit in. What Michael is experiencing is a phenomenon known as the spotlight effect. It is the core psychological illusion of social anxiety. When you suffer from social anxiety, your brain convinces you that you are standing on a dark stage with a massive, blinding spotlight shining directly on you. You believe that every single person in the room is watching your every move, judging your posture, listening for your mistakes, and waiting for you to fail. But here is the liberating truth that psychological science reveals. Everyone else is far too busy worrying about their own spotlight to pay any meaningful attention to yours. The people in the break room were not thinking about Michael's hands shaking. They were worrying about their own upcoming deadlines, their own relationships, or what they were going to eat for lunch. Social anxiety turns us into hyper-analytical mind readers who are almost always completely wrong about what other people are actually thinking. Part 2. The ancient security guard of the mind. To truly understand why Michael's body reacts so violently to a simple break room encounter, we have to look at the evolutionary history of the human brain. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in small, tight-knit tribal communities. In those ancient times, staying in the good graces of the tribe was a matter of literal life and death. If a caveman did something that offended the tribal leaders, if he was mocked, rejected, or cast out of the group, he was left to survive in the wilderness completely alone. Being alone meant facing wild predators, starvation, and certain death. Because of this harsh reality, the human brain evolved a highly sophisticated early warning system designed to prevent social rejection. Deep inside your limbic system sits the amygdala, the almond-shaped alarm bell of the brain. The amygdala doesn't know the difference between a hungry, saber-toothed tiger chasing you through the forest and a group of coworkers chatting by an office microwave. To your amygdala, the risk of looking foolish or being rejected in a social setting triggers the exact same survival alarm as a physical threat to your life. When you walk into a social situation and feel anxious, your amygdala has officially hijacked your nervous system. It floods your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This causes your heart rate to spike so your muscles can get oxygen to run away. It causes your palms to sweat so you can get a better grip on weapons or trees. It pulls blood away from your digestive system and your prefrontal cortex, which is why your stomach feels tied in knots and your brain completely freezes up when someone asks you a simple question. The first step to conquering social anxiety is realizing that your body is not broken. Your brain is simply trying to protect you using an outdated survival program. You are not weak, and you are not crazy. You just have an overprotective security guard living inside your head who thinks that a casual conversation is a deadly battlefield. Part 3. The 3 Pillars of Social Fear. Psychologists break down social anxiety into a cycle driven by 3 core pillars: cognitive distortions, safety behaviors, and post-event rumination. Let us explore how these 3 pillars work together to trap us in a loop of permanent anxiety. The pillar of cognitive distortions. The cycle begins before you even leave your house. Your mind starts projecting a series of highly detailed, catastrophic future scenarios. This is known as anticipatory anxiety. You tell yourself, if I go to that dinner party, I am definitely going to say something stupid. Everyone will stare at me in awkward silence, and I will embarrass myself completely. Your brain uses distortions like fortune-telling and mind-reading to convince you that disaster is inevitable. You treat your anxious feelings as absolute proof of an objective fact. You feel terrified, so you conclude that the social environment is fundamentally dangerous. The pillar of safety behaviors. Once you actually arrive at the social event, the anxiety becomes so intense that you desperately search for ways to protect yourself. This is where safety behaviors come into play. Safety behaviors are subtle, hidden coping mechanisms that we use to minimize our risk of being noticed or judged. For example, Michael might go to a party and spend the entire night staring at his phone, pretending to read important emails. He might hang out exclusively near the food table, stuffing his mouth so he has an excuse not to speak. He might avoid making eye contact altogether, speak in a quiet whisper, or agree with everything everyone else says just to avoid any potential conflict. Here is the tragedy of safety behaviors. They maintain your anxiety instead of curing it. When you use a safety behavior and survive the night, your brain thinks, wow, that was a close call. The only reason we didn't get rejected is because we stared at our phone the whole time. Therefore, you never give yourself the chance to learn that you could have spoken to people normally and been completely fine. Safety behaviors keep you locked inside your protective shell, reinforcing the illusion of danger. Part 4. The toxic cycle of post-event rumination. The third pillar of social anxiety occurs after the event is over, and it is often the most painful part of the entire experience. It is what psychologists call the post-event autopsy or rumination phase. When an emotionally secure person leaves a social gathering, they generally focus on the fun moments, the good food, or the interesting things they learned. They move on with their night. But when an anxious person gets home, they pull out a metaphorical scalpel and begin to systematically dissect every single second of the evening under a microscope of intense self-criticism. Your brain selectively deletes any positive data from the night. It completely ignores the fact that people smiled at you, laughed at your jokes, or asked for your opinion. Instead, your mind zeroes in on a single, isolated moment where you hesitated before speaking, or where someone checked their watch while you were talking. You spend hours agonizing over that single detail. You magnify its importance, twisting it into definitive proof that you are socially incompetent. This post-event autopsy leaves you feeling so deeply demoralized that the next time a social opportunity arises, your anticipatory anxiety is even higher, making the cycle tighter and harder to break. Part 5. Unmasking the core beliefs of worthiness. Beneath the surface level of daily social fears lies a foundation of deep, unconscious assumptions about who we are and how the world works. Cognitive behavioral therapists explain that social anxiety is almost always rooted in 3 core negative beliefs about ourselves and other people. The first core belief is an assumption of personal inadequacy. Deep down, the anxious mind believes, I am inherently flawed, boring, weird, or unlovable. If people see the real, raw version of me, they will instantly reject me. The second core belief is an assumption of audience perfectionism. You look at other people and project an image of absolute flawlessness onto them. You believe that everyone else is incredibly confident, articulate, witty, and socially skilled, and that they maintain impossibly high standards for who they allow into their social circles. The third core belief is an assumption of catastrophic consequences. You believe that social mistakes are completely fatal. If you drop a glass, stumble over a word, or experience a moment of awkward silence, you believe that your reputation is permanently ruined and that people will remember your mistake for the rest of their lives. To heal from social anxiety, we have to use logic to challenge these three assumptions. First, you are not inherently flawed. You are simply a normal, imperfect human being, just like everyone else. Second, the audience is not perfect. Most people are fighting their own internal battles with insecurity, loneliness, and self-doubt. They are not sitting there grading your performance like a judge at an Olympic event. Third, social mistakes are not catastrophic. Awkward moments happen to everyone every single day. The world keeps turning, people forget within minutes, and a single clumsy interaction has zero impact on your actual value as a human being. Part 6. The shift from internal to external attention. One of the most fascinating discoveries in the clinical treatment of social anxiety is the concept of attentional focus. When a socially secure person engages in a conversation, their attention is focused completely outward. They are listening to the other person's stories, looking at the artwork on the walls, or thinking about the topic being discussed. But when a socially anxious person enters a conversation, their attention instantly collapses inward, like a camera lens flipping into selfie mode. You become intensely, painfully self-conscious of your own biological processes. You start monitoring your own heart rate. You ask yourself, am I blinking too much? Is my voice shaking? What should I do with my hands right now? What am I going to say next? Because 90% of your mental processing power is being consumed by this intense internal self-monitoring, you have almost no brain power left over to actually listen to the conversation. As a result, you miss social cues, you lose track of the story, and when it is your turn to speak, you actually do say something clumsy because your brain is completely overloaded with self-criticism. To break this trap, you must practice the skill of external attention shifting. Think of your attention like a flashlight. Right now, your flashlight is pointed directly at your own anxious feelings. You have to consciously, intentionally grip that flashlight and point it outward. Force yourself to look at the color of the other person's eyes. Listen intently to the specific words they are saying. Notice the objects in the room around you. By grounding yourself in the external environment, you starve your amygdala of the internal data it needs to keep the anxiety engine running. Part 7. The power of systematic exposure. You cannot think your way out of social anxiety. You have to act your way out. The gold standard clinical treatment for overcoming this fear is a process known as systematic desensitization or behavioral exposure. Many people make the mistake of trying to cure their anxiety by throwing themselves into a massive, terrifying situation right away. They go from hiding in their room to trying to give a public speech to 100 people. This often floods their nervous system with so much terror that they experience a panic attack, reinforcing their belief that the world is dangerous. Systematic exposure requires you to build an anxiety hierarchy. This is a ladder of social situations, ranked from the least scary to the most scary. Let us look at an example of what an exposure ladder might look like. At the very bottom of the ladder, step 1 might be simply making eye contact and smiling at a stranger walking down the street. Step 2 might be asking a store clerk a simple question, like where to find the milk. Step 3 might be ordering food at a restaurant without using your phone as a shield. Step 4 might be arriving at a casual social gathering and staying for 30 minutes before leaving. Step 5, at the very top of the ladder, might be sharing a personal story during a meeting at work. You started step 1. You repeat that specific action day after day until your amygdala realizes that nothing bad is happening and your anxiety drops to a manageable level. Once step 1 feels easy, you move up to step 2. By taking small, incremental steps, you slowly expand your comfort zone, rewiring your brain's neural pathways and proving to your nervous system that you are strong enough to handle social exposure. Part 8. Embracing the magic of imperfection. A major driver of social anxiety is a hidden addiction to perfectionism. Anxious individuals believe that they must be the most interesting, charismatic, and flawless person in the room to be accepted. They treat every interaction like a performance where they have to earn an A+. But let us think about the people you love most in your life. Do you love them because they are perfect? Do you love them because they never make mistakes, never stutter, and always know the exact right thing to say? No. In fact, we are often deeply drawn to people because of their imperfections. When someone trips over their words, spills a drop of coffee, or admits that they are feeling incredibly nervous, it instantly makes them look human, approachable, and relatable. Perfection builds a cold, artificial wall between people, but vulnerability builds a warm bridge of true connection. Psychologists often use a tool called intentional mistake exposure to help break the grip of perfectionism. You go out into the world and you purposefully make a minor, harmless social blunder. You might ask a cashier for directions to a section of the store that you are currently standing right next to. You might wear an unmatching sock on purpose. By intentionally making a mistake and watching the world continue to spin normally without anyone mocking or hating you, you break the illusion of catastrophic consequences. You realize that you have permission to be a beautifully imperfect human being. Part 9. Building an internal sanctuary of compassion. When you are fighting social anxiety, your inner voice acts like a brutal, non-stop bully. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, that voice points out your flaws, reminds you of past failures, and tells you that you are not good enough. You cannot heal an anxious mind using self-punishment. If berating yourself worked, you would have been cured a long time ago. True healing requires the cultivation of radical self-compassion. When you try to speak up in a meeting and your voice shakes, do not go home and lecture yourself about how stupid you looked. Instead, talk to yourself the exact same way you would talk to a small child who was trying their best but got scared. Say to yourself, "Hey, that was really tough, and our heart was racing, but I am incredibly proud of us for showing up and trying anyway." It is okay that our voice shook. We are learning, we are growing, and every small step counts. By building an internal sanctuary of kindness, you take away the threat of internal punishment. You realize that even if a social interaction goes poorly, you will still have your own back. When you stop fearing your own internal critic, you stop fearing the judgment of the outside world. The ultimate takeaway. As we close out this story, let us bring it back to you. Look at your life right now. Social anxiety is a thief. It steals your career opportunities. It robs you of deep friendships. It keeps you from finding romantic love. And it confines you to a small, isolated existence. But that thief only has power over you if you stay hidden in the shadows. You do not have to live the rest of your life behind a heavy wall of armor. You do not have to let your ancient amygdala dictate your future happiness. Start small today. Take one tiny step up your exposure ladder. Make eye contact with one person. Point your flashlight of attention outward. Be willing to be awkward. Be willing to be imperfect, and remember that your value as a human being is completely non-negotiable. Step out into the world, let yourself be seen, and claim the beautiful, connected life that you deserve. What is one tiny, simple exposure action you are going to take today to challenge your social anxiety? Let me know your commitments in the comments down below. If this deep dive story breakdown shed a light on your fears and handed you a practical blueprint for courage, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another transformative psychology breakdown, and share this video with someone who needs to know they are not alone in their silence. Keep showing up, point your attention outward, embrace your imperfections, and I will see you in the next video.